This is The Real Spiel. Shiloh Institute stand up. I'm laughing in advance because of what I'm going to be talking about today. I'm laughing in advance. As I do the preliminary, you might run and check the link. Check the link that's attached to this video. And come on back so that you understand what I'm talking about. In the meantime, the African Holocaust. This is the live drive part 2, the drive home. Never forget, 100 million Africans were lost in the Middle Passage. That's right. That's right. Some people try to say, oh, there wasn't that many. There wasn't that many. Let me tell you something. These folks who try to minimize the numbers of West African slavery over the course of how many hundreds of years? Slavery started in the 15th century. That's in the 1400s, if not earlier. Continued up until Lincoln freed the slaves. Transatlantic slavery. And so you're trying to tell me in the course of 400 years, which some people now are saying it wasn't 400 years. It wasn't 400 years. Slavery didn't start because America wasn't a country until, no. Slavery started in the 15th century, okay? Started in the 15th century. Because America wasn't doing it doesn't mean that the colonizers weren't doing it. And to continue, if 6 million Europeans were butchered by Adolf Hitler in a very small period of time, 6 million, very small period of time, right? Very smart, very short period of time. You're trying to tell me over the course of hundreds of years, I don't care what number you use, if you use the big number or the small number, you're telling me only a couple of million Africans were taken. You're such a liar. You lie to yourself, you lie to your conscience. But we won't forget. We'll never forget. Now I want to start this off by saying that you've got to pay attention to the distraction. Who am I talking to today? We live, baby, we live. Okay? We got to pay attention to the distraction. Listen to me. Black news is not white news. And this is not accidental. It's intentional. But at the same time, what is news for us is not news for other people. Let's check something out. Examine this. And while we have debates that are going on, the debate that happened between Kamala and Donald Trump, we had an almost assassination of Donald Trump. We have continued unrest happening in various sectors of the world, okay? Things that are on the major hinge of the news. What are the major things happening in the black community simultaneously at the same time? Number one, Puffy is arrested. So any focus that black people had in respect to world politics or anything else, that Puffy's arrested. Number two, not that this lady is necessarily part of the black community whatsoever. I don't consider her part of the black community, but I don't have the ability to throw her out. But Candace Owens goes on a tirade on the Piers Morgan show against Rabbi, forget his name, Shuleman, and her YouTube pages are now blocked. She's being referred to as an anti-Semite. Right? Again, I'm not a fan of Candace Owens, even though now, instead of running, being a slave catcher for the Republicans, now she's out there fanning the flames attacking Jewish people because that's who her people pay, what her people are backing her to do. Well, I was going to say paying her, but backing her. Candace Owens has monetized her social media. She was fired from the Daily Wire, an organization started by a Jewish man. But Candace realized that she's got lots of great backing by individuals who are anti-Israel, and she ran with that. And she ran with that to the tune of millions of followers on her YouTube and monetizing that particular platform, because Candace Owens runs to where the story is. She's an ambulance chaser. So she's not an activist, but still a black woman in the media. Number 3, this has swept over the whole Caribbean. Terrence. Have you heard of Terrence? While people are worrying about if Donald Trump has been shot, while they're still dissecting Kamala's words and trying to figure out if Kamala is good for black people, if she's black, if she's Indian, or what she is, the Caribbean are listening and talking about Mr. Terrence. You know who Terrence is? Let me cut here because this is a show of me and you. Let me see what it says here. I agree with you for the most part, but it's the time for Black America to understand their Hebrew blood connection historically and the underlying prophecy surrounding that fact. We'll talk about that too. I'll add that to the show. So listen, let's talk about Mr. Terrence. Terrence is a Trinidadian police officer who was having an affair. That's all Terrence was. And listen, there are plenty of them. But what took place is Terrence Ramsaroop, that's his name, Mr. Ramsaroop, was sitting on his veranda one day with his mother-in-law or whoever, and his wife decided she was going to have a family meeting and sat down with a cell phone in her hand and a half toe of nail polish on she right foot, which is all you see of her in the video, because that toe needs to be done very badly, my dear. I can't believe you're going around the world with a half toe of nail polish on that big toe. But that big toe is famous now. And she went in on Terrence's side woman, Shania. We all know Shania. I'm sorry, Shania. We all know your name now. And talked about how Terrence is having another baby. His father-in-law said, that is extravagant news. She said, hold on. That child is not mine. And my girl went into a tirade of Terrence. I know that you went to the woman's house. I know where you've been taking her. I know you had sex with her last Thursday. I know you take her to such and such a hotel. I know you play with her son. I know you took our child there. She had all of the files, everything. And Terrence sat there catatonic. Terrence couldn't talk. He hand pitched up behind his head. The man was frozen. When I say this woman had him dead to rights, she had every single movement that Terrence was doing in the last month. She knew when they met. She knew where they were going. Everything. She said she came for an accident and you met at the police station. Yada, yada, yada. From an anonymous caller. His enemy boy, one of them police that don't like you, Terrence, gave her the whole story. And Terrence's video not just circumnavigated the Caribbean. That is, if it just stopped there, Terrence's video inspired the internet. Terrence broke the black Caribbean internet, boy. Terrence and Shania. They made music, they make soca music over Terrence. They did skits over Terrence. They did cover songs over Terrence. They did videos, plays over Terrence. Terrence broke the internet. The Caribbean didn't care if Trump dead or not. They ain't asking no questions whether Kamala is a Jamaican or an Indian. They didn't care where Candace Owen had she popped the PP in. They didn't care about that. They wanted to know more about Mr. Terrence. major hype. A Caribbean comedian took it to his social media, creating multiple skits upon Terrence. When I tell you the music, the fanfare that was done over Terrence, it seemed like the only thing happening in the Caribbean, and especially in Trinidad, was Terrence. People taking pictures of Terrence on the road. People taking video of Terrence leaving his house, carrying garbage bag because she put him out. Oh gosh. What I'm trying to let you know is at the height, and the link is on, I have the link of Terrence on this particular, go and see it, you'll laugh your head off, and there's more to come. But at the height of world news, the entire black community, always, and I mean always, you're going to watch it now, as you see this video, and as you watch anything happening, it pivots. It absolutely pivots. And there is very rare times, and this is why I don't like Candace, there's very rare times where world news and the black community intersect, and that is normally when they kill black people. When they kill black people on camera, on Main Street, in Times Square, world news and the black community intersect. And then what do? They go get a slave catcher like Candace Owens. That's what they do. Do you remember George Floyd? When Candace Owens was saying things, and I quote, Donald Trump is not only the right man for America, I think he is its savior. End quote. When Candace Owens was saying things like that, when Candace Owens was getting married to her Caucasian husband on Donald Trump's golf courses, and when she was positioning herself in her mind to potentially run for a future presidency in the future, I'm sure she's disappointed. I'm sure she's disillusioned that Donald Trump didn't just take the slam dunk and cause her to be his vice president. The antithesis of Kamala would have been Candace, but Donald was looking for an individual who could carry the state of Pennsylvania, right? Oh, sorry, not Pennsylvania, Ohio. So Donald Trump was playing checkers or chess, and Candace was playing checkers with her political future. But what takes place is they bring a slave catcher like Candace Owens to say, let's say something negative about this black person that we have killed, that we have lynched. Let's bring his character down. Let's soften the blow so black America doesn't stand up. And Candace has admitted in effigy to say she has been coerced or pushed to say negative and disparaging things about the black community, but she's a liar and a turncoat, so it's very difficult to believe her. But I believe what I saw you do, and I saw you try post-mortem to tear down George Floyd for all eyes to see, to make him a despicable character in the eyes of those who all we saw was a man crying for his mother and being murdered in plain sight. And Candace Owens signed up for that job. That's why we don't like you. That's why we'll never like you. And again, you black men right now who are trying to jump on top of Kamala and say, oh, she was putting Pookie in jail. She put Pookie in jail. Yeah, Pookie and them. She put Pookie and them in jail for smoking weed. 1,500 charges. 45 people served time. 45 people served time. But brothers are mad because Harris put Pookie and them in jail. Okay? Okay? But if you're mad at her, what do you think about Candace Owens? Because I have no use for that lady whatsoever. But she's an excellent distraction. She's an excellent distraction, because black news and white news are not the same thing. They're absolutely not the same thing. And our culture is so entertaining to us that it is so easy. I mean, it is so easy. Think about it. Between secular culture, which is Terrence, Ramsarup. Oh my gosh, you got to go see the videos. It's too funny. You can't leave it. You can't. It's must-see TV. It's must-see social media. Terrence Ramsarup and Shania came back with she owned 2 cents, but Shania, just leave it. I know Terrence is at your house right now because his woman kicked him out. Got to get the backstory of that. If it's not for that, if it's not for the secular, and then you have church, you have some church scandal that'll come up. Then you have some rapper situation that will come up. Then you have an athlete situation that will come up. All of our news, and I mean all of our news, is basically around certain set-up icons in our community. And I call them set-up icons. Most of the time, those are set-up icons, not real icons, but set-up icons in our community. And away you go. You're taken. You can't focus. You can't concentrate no more. Candace Owens is an example of good faith and bad information. That's well said. Candace Owens, I can't put it any other way. She's a slave catcher. She is a slave catcher. She's go out there and catch those slaves and bring them back and put you in the big house, And she's living her version of the American dream. And something's very broken. And it's very broken inside of her. She can't keep a job to save her life. She can't keep anything to save her life. Get run over by these people. And she is a mess. The Daily Wire got rid of her. Her own YouTube channel, frozen. Right? All the political hobnobbing that she did, and Donald Trump won, and Trump in 45s didn't amount to anything. She has a massive audience that listens to things she says because she is articulate. I refuse to call her intelligent. I just refuse. Not that she's not unintelligent. I just refuse to say it. I refuse. She's articulate. I'll give her that. She's articulate, but I refuse to call her intelligent out of spite. I just don't want to. I just refuse to call her intelligent because that type of intelligence is for me is extremely, I would say, malevolent intelligence. It's very malevolent, very evil. I see it as evil. I see it as something that I can't respect. It's extremely evil. So I refuse to call that intelligence. Wicked wisdom is not, I don't know. I don't know what to call it. But they utilize her as a talking head to destroy and to dismantle all things in the black community when it comes time. Right now, she's trying to figure out her way back. It's clear. She's trying to figure out her way back to the black community. She's softening her rhetoric in respect to us. It's very clear that's what she's doing. It's obvious that's what she's doing. However, she has taken on the Jewish community now and has decided to go after what she was referred to as Zionist. Her new boogeyman is Zionism. She is definitely hunting any Zionist rhetoric that she can find out there, and she calls it Jewish extremism, which is where she went wrong. That's where she went wrong. That's where I'm trying to avoid traffic like crazy out here, but I'm not. I'm being unsuccessful. I'm being led into dead ends all over the place. But that's where she's going wrong, because she just should call it what it is. It's Zionism. It's Zionism. And stop referring to it as part of the religion, because Zionism and Judaism have nothing in common. And if that'll get me blocked, block me. I'll find somewhere else to talk. Let me tell you something too, just in that note. You have free speech. People talking about the end of the death of free speech. You have free speech. You just don't have it on these platforms. This is not a free speech platform. This is controlled by people. Free speech, go stand on the corner and talk. That is called free speech. Nobody can hold you. Nobody can arrest you. But on these platforms, it's clear. It's not free speech. Because what you've done is you've surrendered your intelligence, your intellectual property of your mind, your voice, and your opinion. You've surrendered it to this medium. And once you've surrendered it here, they can do with it what they wish. They can do with it whatever they want. And they can cut you off. Remember, they're paying you to talk. This is a paid talk show. I don't get Candace Owens money. But it's monetized. Once you've monetized yourself, you work for them. And they can shut you down anytime they want. Free speech doesn't live here. So stop worrying about free speech on other people's social media platforms. This belongs to somebody. This belongs to somebody. Let me hear what y'all got to say. Herman, when I see a person who seems sharp mentally but doesn't get the bigger picture of using it for positivity, I usually describe them as cunning. That's true. Zionism is not a problem, though in my humble opinion. Zionism is the genesis of our communications. Kyrie and Kanye, but you're absolutely correct in saying that it is a private entity. So you can expand on what you mean when you say Zionism is not the issue. I think you're trying to say that there's a greater scenario happening. So I'll let you break that down. The issue that Zionism brings to the table is twofold. Zionism is an ideology, but Zionism is also backed by a lot of money. And so let's say that I am a basketball player, and I'm one of the best basketball players in the world. And there's a Zionist trillionaire. The Zionist trillionaire says, we want him to play for our team. We want him to wear our products. And we want, when current issues or issues come up, that he's a pacifier, that he's somebody who says, come on guys, just take it easy. You're playing for their team. You're not saying outrageous things, but you're effectively playing for their team because you don't have a voice anymore. They've bought your voice, right? These are things that Michael Jordan has been criticized for. That Michael Jordan, at times of great political unrest, racial unrest, he's been silent, woefully silent. And so Zionism has the money to silence. That's the idealism behind the business side. But the ideology of Zionism is what gets actually very scary. It actually gets very dangerous, right? Like any other radical ideology. Any radical ideology that focuses on one particular group of people will be scary for everybody else. Absolutely. It's going to be scary for everybody else. And so once you associate yourselves as a superior people, as a people who have rights to them given by God to overthrow, to conquer, and to dominate other people or regions, you become a point of concern for the rest of the world. You become a point of concern. And Zionism is not part of the context of the religious function of Judaism whatsoever. It never could be. And I could break that down very quickly, because when the Israelites left Egypt, the strangers, the Bible says the strangers came with them, meaning people that were non-Israelites, and God treated them the same. And that's called foreshadowing. It's called foreshadowing to what God was eventually going to be doing later on. So the inclusiveness of God is very easy. He put 8 people on an ark, and he let all of them live. He didn't kill 3 or 4 of them and said, these ones are bad, these ones are good. Those 8 people he put on the ark, he says, these ones are going to live. Prior to that, the individuals that we are not connected to anymore did not make it past that flood. And this is the biblical story. So these 8 people are the patriarchs of everyone who is currently in the earth. And nobody's descended from anybody else but those 8 people. And therefore, God must have had a plan for the descendants of those 8 people. And so the exclusionary aspect of Zionism is a myopic view of a small portion of history, where God says, I'm using this group, to bless everybody. I'm using this one man, Abraham, to bless everybody. I'm using this one man Jacob, aka Israel, to demonstrate who I am to everybody. However, I am not exclusifying anyone. And then he shows up later and declares to us that God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son. And you know the rest. Most famous scripture of any scripture in the world, John 3:16. There is no one scripture that anyone of any religion can say is more famous than John 3:16. The Jew recites the Shema, the Muslim has his prayers, but there's no more famous scripture than John 3:16 to anyone, because that is a context of how humanity sees this invisible God, someone that loves us all. And we just got to figure out how to stay on the right side of that love. Before people call me a universalist, that's not what I'm saying. But I'm saying that these ideologies that narrow everything down to saying we are the ones he's looking for, you're running into problems with those folks, especially when it's has an underlying evil tone to it. But let me not get off base. Our news is not their news, and their news is not our news. But that has to change. That's not a good thing. And the reason it's that way in the West is because the careful orchestration of civilization building includes this very important thing. You must make sure that the non-dominant class is distracted while you're making dominant decisions. Kids, me and mom got to talk about some stuff. Can you guys go in the other room and play? Right? Can you guys, listen, you guys go outside, because me and your mother got to talk about some things. Things are important we got to talk about. And you guys don't need to be listening to this. Go play basketball. Go play on your video games. Go put on your headphones. Whatever mom and daddy got to do, you're not including the less dominant portion of the residential population in those conversations. And that is part of good civilization building. Right? Democracy is a dream that has never come true. The rule of the people is an art form. The greatest level of manipulation is to make somebody believe that what you want for them is what they actually want for themselves. That, my friend, is when you are playing at a higher level. Because that's where it is. Most of those folks who are being talked to right now about who to vote for, what's passing through their mind? Oh, I got a stimulus check from Trump. I made money when Trump was in office. I got a stimulus check. Okay. You got a stimulus check from Donald Trump. That's what you think? When it was the Democratic Congress that gave you that stimulus check. Most of you, again, you're being distracted by bad information, as my boy Herman Rome said. Bad information, or you're just evil, or you're just stupid, or you're stupid. You could be dumb too. That's part of it. You can't leave that out. I don't like to insult people, but stupidity is part of the problem. Right? Stupidity is part of the problem. Some people are just dumb. And that's that. You can't do nothing about that. There's no pill to cure dumbness. Some people are dumb. No matter, you ever heard of educated stupid people? There's plenty of them. A lot of educated dumb people. A lot of them. Book smart, but don't have no sense. And unfortunately, there's too many on our side of the ledger sheet. There's too many. And they all come to bear when you all have elections. That's right. Even conversations about reparations. I heard this dummy. He's got a very popular Instagram following. Oh, I always hit that pothole. He's got a very popular Instagram following. And he was replaying Trump's conversation about Haitian migrants. And then talking about how they brought the Haitian migrants here to work legally, That's why they're allowed to work. They were part of a particular program to reinvigorate the Midwest and get some of these dying cities, people, and bring industry there, etc., etc. And what he said, in true ignorant Negro American form, he says, Joe Biden, he's a black man now, Joe Biden and Kamala Harris gave your reparations to the Haitians. Just had to exhale. I just had to like, bro, some of your stuff is really funny, but you're stupid. To even to say that, even to say that, they gave your reparations. They gave reparations for 45 million black people alive today in America, and the descendants to what? 15,000 Haitians? That's how they did that? That's what they did? And what do these Haitians get for it? Come on, man. A plane ticket? A visa? Yo. Our news is not their news. It's not the same news. Hegelian dialect, I'm not sure. Agree with the premise. Let me read after I make this turn here. Let me read before I make this turn here. I agree with the premise. The question is, what's the political path you think Kamala brings? A path better than Candace's politics proposal? Yes. Let me address that now, and let me address your former point also in respect to the Hebrew context of Black America. But I'll start with this point here. The difference between two prominent black women with large platforms, Kamala Harris and Candace Owens, and what they represent for the black community coming behind them. Candace Owens is a representative of the slave master. She has been recruited and positioned to articulate the words of her hegemonic masters. And therefore she has told you that you must pull yourself up by your bootstraps, that anything that looks like racism will not be racism, that you are your own problem, that you commit more crimes per capita, that you are the detriment of yourself. Not to look at anyone else, not to look at systematic things, not to look at history, not to look at a preponderance of evidence that shows that you started in an unequal footing, but she has been told to let you know, Negro, all of your issues have nothing to do with who preceded us and who preceded you. They are your issues to bear. And if you Haitians weren't eating dogs and cats, then people wouldn't be talking about you. Like, these kinds of things are what Candace Owens represents to a generation coming after her. What does Kamala represent? Kamala represents, again, it's such a cliche, but it's hope. The context that you can build a better future. The context that if she can be the vice president, and if she can be the president, why can't we have scenarios where we have all black towns again? Why can't we have circumstances like Tulsa, Oklahoma, and Black Wall Street? And why can't we have a nation and a governor and areas that are ruled by us? Why can't we succeed from this union and declare that we will self-actualize and govern ourselves? Oh, ladies and gentlemen, like to many that thinks, oh, this guy's here trying to break America. America's already broken. America has already have color divides. It's always had it. It's always had a racial divide. And so what's wrong with America, portion of America deciding that it wants to be Puerto Rico? You already have it. It's already set up there. You already have the model that certain aspects of the black community should sever themselves from the mainstream aspect of what that colony, that plantation, that slave colony was set up as, and should declare that we will govern ourselves, we will install our own constitution, and we will work in harmony with you, but as an independent nation onto ourselves, and we will not take hostages. If some folks, blacks for Trump, want to stay in I would call it historical America and find their way, please do. But if some want to come with us and build a new nation that we are running ourselves because we deserve to have it, because we bled for it, because Sankofa, because our descendants were swimming in the Atlantic Ocean for it to happen. If we decide to do that, then we have the right to do it with your blessing. And we're not just going empty-handed. We're doing exactly what, and this is now the segue to your first question. We are doing exactly what the Israelites did. They spoiled the Egyptians. The Bible says they borrowed of the Egyptians gold and silver. That's right. So you're not just leaving empty. You're leaving with a portion of the military, a portion of the technology, a portion of the gold, a portion of the power of the stock market, a portion of the technology. You're leaving with a portion of everything because it's yours. It's yours. And so this is the context of the prophetic implications of what it means to be a Black American. That you have sat down in Egypt again, and it's time to come out of her again. It is time to say, as it says in Revelations, it says, come out of her, my people. Be not a partaker of her plagues or her sins. Be separate from her. And this is the mentality of Black America. It's what you should have. And it's why their news is not your news. It's not that they're your enemy. White people are no more your enemy than your left pocket is your enemy from your right pocket. White people have an agenda, have a history, have a worldview that has been birthed out of their experience. And you have a history, a worldview that is birthed out of your experience. And sometimes those experiences match and sometimes they don't. And all I'm saying to you is, why are you the only slave that does not have their own? And there's nothing wrong with you saying, why can't we have our own Congress, our own Senate? Why can't we have our own president? And I don't care how it begins. In Trinidad, they got independence, which meant that they were still part of the Commonwealth of England, of Great Britain, the UK. You just got independence. We're going to independently govern ourselves. Yeah, you can have what you could have a prime minister, right? I don't agree with this, but for some people who are squeamish, let me show you how it worked and how it can work. If you want to just repeat history, you have a prime minister, right, who speaks on behest of your country, but still has an attachment to historical America. And then a few years later, you say, you know what? We don't need those trappings anymore. We've built ourselves up. We declare ourselves to be independent. We want to be a republic. We want to be a republic. We want to be a separate nation. And you do that. There's nothing wrong with that. It's like saying there's something wrong with you leaving GM and going to work for Hyundai. I don't know if Hyundai is owned by GM now. I don't know. I'm just using the analogy. There's nothing wrong with doing that. There's nothing wrong with severing and saying we're going to do it on our own. Everyone else does it. But why is it such a terrible thing when it comes to Black people doing it in America? Because you've been for hundreds of years told, this is your country, this is your country. It's not your country. It's never been your country. It's never been your country. How much blood has to spill? It's never been your country. Okay? And even folks like Candace Owen should know. Do you own YouTube, Candace? Do Black people own YouTube? When you say stuff people don't like, guess what? They shut you down, young lady. They shut you down. Those same folks that you used to work for, those same people, that power you thought you have, you don't have it because that's not your country. They just flip the switch. Some little person with less power than you, with less of a platform than you, with no mind, some little person with a simple agenda is going to say, no, we got to teach you a lesson because They're going to affect our advertisers over here. So we got to make it look like we're doing something because we don't want no problem. Shut her down for 7 days. That's it. That's it. There wasn't a lot of thought process when it came to you. 3 strikes. They gave her 3 strikes in 1 day. Shut her platform down. Shut her platform down. Demonetized her and shut her platform down. Says, you're not going to talk about these people. They pay us. Zionism. Zionism. Do you know how much money YouTube pays? Do you know how much money YouTube has to pay people? People are making millions of dollars on this platform. Millions. So you can't, and that's, I'm not talking 1 or 2 people are making millions. The amount of money that is on the back end of YouTube. Candace Owens is nobody. Is nobody. We'll shut her down so quick. And guys like Roland Martin got to watch their P's and Q's too. Because Roland Martin is smart. He's only going to talk about white people. Don't talk about other kinds of white people. Don't do that, Roland. Because the second you start talking about the Ashkenaz over there, and the power that they have in media, that's it right there. That was enough to shut me down. The second that you declare that there is some nefarious connection between that community in Eastern Africa run by Europeans that's at war right now and power in the media, you have now done what the ADL, that old racist David Greenblatt, that's right, you're an old racist, you're an anti-black racist, David Greenblatt, and his set of Zionists in the ADL. That's all they need. You get on the wall right away. You get put up on a wall because you're feeding into what they've been trying to destroy forever. Forever, they've been trying to destroy that. And what are they trying to destroy? The truth. The truth. The truth is, Del Brereton does not control the media. The truth is, Candace Owens does not control the media. The truth is, Roland Martin does not control the media. We are using media at their behest. You know why they're letting us use the media? Because they make way more money by us talking. They make way more money on us. They can't run the shows themselves. They can't get our audience. They can't get you to watch them. They will let us talk to a certain extent, and their advertisers will pay them much more than we'll ever receive. Much more than we'll ever receive. And this is the reciprocity of the corporate world. The corporate world are your bosses on social media. That's right. For anybody who doesn't have a monetized platform, when you monetize yourself, when you go and you say, and you turn your monetization on, you're going to get 3 things, one of 3 things. You're going to get a $sign that's green, a $sign that's yellow, or a $sign that's red. Red means can't monetize. Yellow means not everybody's going to want to hear this because of what you're talking about. I can't use this for a predominance of my advertisers because you're talking about certain topics. This topic, this particular one, I guarantee it's going to be yellow. And then green. Yeah, talk about your little Negro topics. We want that stuff on there. Green light. Every advertiser will put stuff on your platform. So that's how it works. They know what you're saying. It's not just randomly done. No, they know what you're saying. Yellow or green. Yellow means, we got to be careful. This guy said some objectionable things here. Everybody can't put their stuff behind his particular program. Because black news is not white news. And I hope I answered your question. I am Puerto Rican, by the way. Good for you. You understand. What black Americans need to be doing is building with the indigenous tribes of America who have already received reparations to get an understanding of the process of what to insist upon. I think Candace is trying to find the way. That's my perspective on her as of now. I don't think she's trying to find the way. I think she's been rejected and is crawling back to us. We don't want her back. We don't want her back. She's crawling back. And it's going to take her 20 years for people to forget the nonsense she used to be saying about black people, for people to forget. And she's going to have to apologize, and she's going to have to say she was ignorant, and she's going to have to do that to get back into the good graces of black people. But let me address this other point that came up. Utilizing allegiances with the indigenous people. Oof. I don't know how to say this without saying it, bro. They don't like us. Okay. I was a policeman, as many of you know. We have natives here in Canada. And part of our police memorandum of understanding when dealing with indigenous people. Number one, don't send black officers to police indigenous people. They see white people here, themselves here, us here. They do not want to be told what to do by blacks because they consider us to be inferior to them. That's number one. Number two, black people cannot touch certain things that pertain to their spiritualism. Their what was it called? It was their medicine bag. Women and black people can't touch their medicine bag. Basically, the rule of thumb in the OPP, don't send black officers up north. If you did send a black person up north, that person was probably going to being fast-tracked to promotion. They went to serve a northern posting for a very short period of time, and then they moved them out in a very short period of time before they could cause too much damage. They're not our allies. And what I'll give you as a comparison is black people and Palestinians. Black people and Palestinians, seemingly, we have the same story, but Jewish people have supported black people much more in North America than Palestinians have ever supported black people. And it's just a fact. It's just a fact. You know, my easiest example is the NBA, right? There's much more. My second easiest example is the civil rights movement, right? So, unfortunately, there are certain communities that we share the same circumstances, but when they get out of their mess, they're not looking to us saying this is our brother, we need to take them out too. No, they don't see us as part of that. And also, last but not least, I want to say this carefully too, so that it doesn't just sound racist, but sounds like true information. How are you going to take it as racist? Before white people decided to start giving the Aboriginal communities all of this money, casinos, land grants, all of the things that are sitting on the table for them right now, they did something. Freeze, okay? Just freezing that thought. I'm going to tell you what they did. Let's go and look at Australia. And remember what the Aboriginal Australian looked like. Black, black. Black, black, black. Dark, dark hair. Dark, 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 dark people. Curly hair like wool. Black lips. Very different looking people. Did not look like the African because they're not Africans. They're indigenous to Australia. They are an Afro-Asian people indigenous to Australia. Remember, Australia was a prison colony that the Europeans sent prisoners there. White people are not indigenous to Australia. However, go now and see what an Aboriginal Australian looks like. When people from Australia tell you they're Aboriginal, what do they look like now? They look white. Because before in North America, before the white man gave the indigenous population millions, if not billions of dollars, they included themselves in that population. They started affiliating themselves, saying, "Oh yeah, we're indigenous too." We're they watered it down with themselves. They speckled themselves through it. You want me to give you another example? Third example. In Canada, using Canada as an example, but this happens everywhere in North America and maybe in Europe, we had something that was called the social contract, brought in by a politician by the name of Bob Ray. Bob Ray said, we want to make sure that certain ethnicities are represented. It's what you refer to as DEI hires. Certain ethnicities are represented, and therefore minorities have to make up 50% of the hiring. So do you know who became minorities very quickly in this period of time? Two demographics of people who never were minorities before became minorities. Number one, women became minorities. A woman, so if you're applying for a police job, if you're a woman, you're considered a minority. Secondly, if you're a homosexual man, you're considered a minority. So the LGBTQ spirit, etc., community is now considered a minority community. So a white man who is gay, all of a sudden he's a minority, and he qualifies for DEI or racial equity hires, racial equity subsidies, racial equity legislation that is to get individuals who are from a minority group, a visible minority group. If you identify as LGBTQ, you become a visible minority, even as a white person. So, here's a good idea. But if they're not your allies, if there's not an agenda already to make sure that when we bring it to you, and the reason they brought all these casinos and whatnot to the native community is because they said, we can put a casino on native land and never have to pay tax on the proceeds. The native will give these natives billions, we'll let them put up casinos, and then we don't got to pay tax. Wait a minute, but how do we get money too? We become native. That's the only reason they did it. They exploited their tax-exempt status, their preservation of their culture status to make money, and they said, we'll cut you in on the deal if you allow us to be native. That was it. So, again, their news is not our news. As I close, Coast, that's not entirely correct. Please help us. Natives are not indigenous. Well, that's the term I'm using. A native individual, somebody who is native to the land. He is indigenous to the land. If you have another definition for the term, that's how I'm using it. Someone who is indigenous to the land is native to the land. Okay, so I don't know how you use that particular term, but that's how I use it. That's how I use it. That's why Trump was calling her Pocahontas. He's calling her Pocahontas, but he's dealing with the wrong India, the fool. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, everybody. This is Del K. Brereton. To the Cyclopses are in the building. This has been The Real Spiel. Their news is not our news. And when you are being distracted by things happening in the black community, don't look around, because who's got their hand in my pocket? Bam, bam, bam. You're being distracted for a reason, right? The black community is being distracted for a reason. They don't want you to go out to see Kamala. They're being distracted for a reason. They arrested Puffy now on purpose. They want you to be distracted. And they're going to keep you distracted all the way to November. Trust me. Trust me, they are. They know how to distract you. They're going to keep you off of Donald Trump's behind because he lost that. Listen, they know what they're doing. And so when your focus shifts so drastically off things so small, realize you've been distracted. It's like, hey, look over here. That's it. That's all. God bless you. This is Del K. Brereton. This is The Real Spiel.